Hi there, everyone. We are going to wait just another minute or so. Looks like there's still some people funneling in, so sit tight and we will get started shortly. All right, we are a minute or two after the hour, so let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I know this will be a great live presentation brought to you by both OpenSesame and the City of Corpus Christi. So a few things to note as we get started. First, you all have been muted automatically, but there is a question panel in GoToWebinar. So there will be time for Q&A at the end of the presentation as well as throughout the webinar. So feel free to put questions in there that you would like the presenter to see, or if you need to talk with us directly as organizers about something. So go ahead and use that question panel for anything that comes up. And oops. Also, lastly, everyone will receive a recording of this webinar and the slides from the presentation. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. That will come via email. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Samantha Marsden, and I am the marketing manager at OpenSesame. And for those who aren't familiar with us, OpenSesame has the largest library of e-learning courses from the world's top publishers. But we actually don't give you just access to a library of courses for you to go in and pick from on your own and hope for the best. We actually work with you and learn about your organization. We help you find the courses you need in our library, map those courses to your core competencies. We work with you on syncing courses with your learning management system and really support you in every way possible in your L&D initiatives. And I was really excited to invite our speaker today, Liza Wisner from the City of Corpus Christi, to give this presentation. The City of Corpus Christi has been a fantastic partner to work with, and we've learned a lot from Liza over the years about learning and development within city governments. And she has a really unique experience and a great story about developing L&D programs within the City of Corpus Christi. And in our opinion, this is something that really should be showcased, and I really think everyone will learn something from her today, definitely. Liza is the Learning and Organization Development Officer for the City of Corpus Christi. She has a bachelor's degree from Texas A&M in computer science and a master's degree in educational technology. And I could really go on and on about Liza's accomplishments professionally and personally. So I'm actually going to let her talk a bit more about herself. So Liza, I am so glad you are here. I'm going to let you take the reins and get started.
Hey, Sam, thank you so much for this opportunity. At the City of Corpus Christi, we're just very excited to have found you, OpenSesame. I know I'll be talking a little bit more about our partnership and how we were able to leverage the support you provide, but thank you for that great introduction. So welcome everyone to this presentation about the Learning Institute. Samantha mentioned my name, Liza Wisner, and I am the Learning and Organizational Development Officer for the City of Corpus Christi. And one of my goals is really and truly to grow our city's leaders. That's why I was brought on board. In fact, I had the perfect opportunity. Nobody was in the position when I came to work for the City of Corpus Christi. They had a goal to create a learning environment for the entire city, and they were looking for that perfect person to do this. And at the time, I was actually living in Houston, Texas. I was living in a completely different city, but I wanted to come back to Corpus Christi so that I could use my tools and use my skills in just different areas and different professional capacities I've had to be able to build this, what we now call the Learning Institute. So I'll just go ahead and get started by just telling you a little bit about the Learning Institute and the things we do. We're essentially a corporate university for the city of Corpus Christi. And one of our goals was to curate customized learning solutions, not only for our organization, for the city itself, but also extending towards our entire city. So we're looking at not only our 3,000 employees, but how can we impact learning and development across 300,000 citizens. So we've been in operation since 2014. And again, the primary goal is educational and organizational development programs. And the realization of this was a strategic plan that was created to take Corpus Christi to the next level. So we're here in Corpus Christi, and when we're learning about the Learning Institute, I'm going to be talking about how we were able to analyze the things we do so that we are able to bring the best value to the Learning Institute. We're going to talk about implementation, how we were able to implement the things that we decided we were going to do for the Learning Institute. And then we'll also talk about growing city champions, which is our motto. We really talk about that, and you'll learn a little bit more about it by hearing about what we've grown, which is our City Champions program. So let's learn a little bit about Corpus Christi. So some of you may not actually know where Corpus Christi is, so I always have to put up a map and just kind of point out we are in the Gulf of Mexico. Here in the bottom, you can see from the arrow, we are right there close to San Antonio. We're 4 hours from Houston and close to Austin, so you can kind of get your bearings to know where we're at. The city of Corpus Christi is known as an all-American city. We're the 8th largest city in Texas. Our population is about 300,000 citizens, and our key industries here are petrochemical, military, and tourism. We get about 8 million visitors every year. Now, the best thing about Corpus Christi for me is the temperature. I absolutely love the warm weather. And in July and August, it is kind of unbearable. Sometimes it's over 100 degrees, but it's about 93 degrees. But in January, when everybody has snowstorms, we're at like 65 degrees, you know. Sometimes it goes up to 70s and 80s. It's amazing. And one of the biggest things about Corpus Christi is that we are known, and this has been for a decade, for 10 years, we have been given the title as America's birdiest city. Essentially what that means is we have more birds in Corpus Christi than anywhere else in the country. So that's pretty amazing to know. So if you don't know about Corpus Christi, hopefully you've learned a little bit about it, and that may intrigue you to come visit us one day. The City of Corpus Christi as an organization employs 3,000 employees, and this includes our police officers and our fire personnel, and we are governed under the council manager municipal government. And what this essentially means is that our elected city officials are the primary authority in all our matters. So this also means determining any policies and also appointing our city manager. And our city manager is ultimately the person who they work with to be able to do business. And you can learn more about our city at cctexas.com. One of the strategic goals that one of the visions that came out of the strategic planning that happened, and this is actually before I came on board to the city of Corpus Christi, is we decided that the city of Corpus Christi was going to become the benchmark city for the state of Texas. And so what that meant was a lot of research and a lot of investment has gone into thinking about all the different aspects that play into making a community successful. And what was realized is it's important to be able to provide everybody the opportunities they need to become successful. And it has to do with learning. It has to do with education. It has to do with empowering everybody to think beyond the means they currently have. And so that's the goal of our Learning Institute. So we started off by, when I came on board, the first thing I did was I did a survey. We hadn't ever had an employee engagement survey, which really surprised me. And so we did an employee engagement survey right away and just asked the main questions of, do you like your job? What don't you like about your job? Or, you know, just the basic questions to gauge how the employees are actually feeling about the work they're doing at the City of Corpus Christi. We also hosted focus groups, and these were based on different areas of focus. So we had one on customer service, performance, efficiency, just based on all the different aspects that affect every employee's life. And so that played a role in giving us more feedback about how we can provide a greater opportunity for growing leaders. We also looked at the data. We did have a pretty active training team, and so we looked at the data in terms of what do they train and the responses to the training that was given, whether it was highly participated and you know, through the focus groups we were able to find out whether people actually either enjoyed the trainings or they felt they were not relevant. And so we used a lot of information to drive the decisions we made in building the Learning Institute. The other thing we also looked at was turnover. We looked at how many employees we hire. And we also looked at our performance metrics. We have our city's performance measures, and we looked at how the number of employees we have employed actually affects the productivity of the organization. And then we had multiple leadership meetings. We have over 30 departments here at the City of Corpus Christi. And so my first 6 months was very busy, having multiple meetings with multiple people, because as you can imagine, running a city means that we have a diverse group of people working for us, everywhere from our executive leadership team who work in the offices, all the way to our frontline teams who either are working out in the field with the street operations, or just, you can imagine there's a huge spectrum of people that we're working with. And so it really meant understanding our whole entire organization and how the Learning Institute can be able to be a strong partner for them. The other thing we ended up doing was creating an advisory board. And this is something I brought with me from academia. I used to work in a higher education institution. I actually worked for Texas A&M University Corpus Christi, and I saw the value of having advisory boards. It's a lot of times when you get funding, because I was managing grant funding, and some grant funds require that you have an advisory board to manage the operations of the programs that you're running. And it was very helpful having those. So as soon as I knew we were going to be building something new, we hadn't even named it the Learning Institute yet, and we decided we were going to have an advisory board. And it was made up of multiple people within our city. So we're talking about everyone from our Texas A&M University Corpus Christi to our Young Business Professionals Organization to our Craft Training Center. We had our Literacy Council there. We had our community college represented. And so as you can see, we had a spectrum of people that actually impact learning and development here at the city. And of course, our school districts, our Corpus Christi Independent School District, we had everyone represented. And what that did was it helped paint a picture for us in terms of not only were we thinking about our citizens, right, but what does the work our citizens do? How does that impact our entire community? And how can we leverage the community resources to be able to provide that support internally? Creating this advisory board was actually pretty amazing, I have to say, because there was pockets of awesomeness within our city that we didn't even realize that we had access to. And so we were able to tap into those. We were able to build stronger partnerships with people that we already worked with, because they saw that we're bringing everyone to the table and we're trying to consolidate the great resources we have in Corpus Christi, because our ultimate goal is to become the benchmark city. And the only way we're going to do that is together. So anyone who's ever built a house probably knows that, you know, the best chance to be successful is to have a blueprint. And so the first thing we did when we had all the meetings done, we had the surveys, we had all the data, and we were like, oh my gosh, all this information, is we literally just sat down and we put everything out there. We decided, let's just put everything in a wish list of what we want, how we want it to look and feel, and what we want people to do. And that leads me into emotion versus logic. I want to point this out because we were being pulled in different directions. There was an investment towards building our Learning Institute, and previously it was being called the Learning Academy, and we essentially decided to call it the Learning Institute. But the whole challenge there was logic, right? So what do the numbers say, and what do the business numbers say, right? And then the emotion side, what do the employees actually want? What does our community actually want? And what are they saying they want, but that's not really what they want, because you can read the underlying tones of what they're saying. So there was many things we were looking at, and ultimately we because we were aware of the fact that we wanted to represent something that everybody wanted to participate in, we knew we needed to tap into the emotional need. There's a quote by Dale Carnegie that says that when you're dealing with people, you're not actually dealing with logic, you're dealing with emotion. And that's something that you cannot go outside of. So when we were building the Learning Institute, it was more important for us for people to have an emotional connection between the work we were doing, so that we were able to persuade them that they're interested in becoming leaders and create movement and action, so that we're not just sitting there as, oh, we have training, come sign up for training, or we have performance that we do, performance appraisals, and we do your performance measures and all. No, it wasn't going to be logic. We were really thinking that we really need to figure out how we can tap into the emotion. So when we built the strategic plan, it was a lot, right? So we talked about every different aspect of impacting our city's performance. And basically, the part that I want to just touch on, I'm not going to touch on everything, is the people part. And of course, like your organization, anyone's organization, you know that people are the ones who drive the success of the organization. All the other pieces of the puzzle wouldn't come together, and they wouldn't even work if the people are not engaged, if the people are not scaled up to be able to perform and be capable to do the work. So we focused heavily on trying to figure out how can we make our people engaged, and how can we make them capable and able to do the job that they need to do. And so we threw everything again into what we call mind mapping. And I'm going to share the tool that we use to do all these different maps with you. But it's very important, I think, when you're working with teams, as we were, is to put everyone's voice at the table. So we wanted everyone to have equal voice. So we made sure that anybody who was involved in the building of the Learning Institute had an opportunity to share, right? Had an opportunity to tell us what they wanted to do. And then when everyone saw everything on the table, we were able to pick and choose and kind of morph it into what we wanted. And this is what we ended up with. This is actually the very first mind map that everyone sort of agreed on in one way or another. And we're very excited about it because it kind of pulls together all the resources the city wanted. So the City of Corpus Christi Learning Institute works on training. We do leadership development, performance management. We manage all the recognition programs. We do the customer service initiatives for the city. And we also manage the community involvement for our employees. Now, the tool I wanted to mention is called MindMaster. The cool thing about it is it's free. That's great for us at the city because our budgets are very, very tight. And so using MindMaster is helpful I'm sure in your organization. If you're not using it already, I encourage you to use it just for if you're doing any brainstorming or any project planning. It's completely web-based, and you can share the MindMaster with your teams. They can go in there and add things, and you can actually see who added and what they added, change colors, and again, best of all, it's free. So go ahead and get that if you're interested in doing mind maps like we did. But when I talked about emotion and I talked about logic, the emotion side was about our branding. We wanted to make sure that when you were engaging with the Learning Institute, you felt like a rock star. You felt like, wow, this is great. I can't believe this is like a local government. Because local government, when I came into work for local government, I saw it as, when I came in, everybody was sort of like, it just kind of seemed like dated and not seen as more upscale, corporate style looking. And that's the one thing I wanted to take away from the Learning Institute look and feel, is I wanted it to feel like something that was beyond local government. I wanted it to feel like something that could be a global initiative. Even though we were very much local, I wanted everyone to feel that, I wanted that pride in having this corporate university, being a member of this corporate university and knowing that it's homegrown here in Corpus Christi. So we actually ended up working with a local marketing company. And I mean, you'd be surprised. We didn't spend thousands and thousands of dollars on this because fortunately, I have a degree in computer science, and so I am capable of doing some of this work. But the reason we wanted to work with a communications team was because we wanted to project the message, right? So we were able to work with them to be able to pull things together. So as you can see, we worked on the website, we worked on our own look and feel in terms of our teams, and we also were able to develop a great video. This video, you can visit our website, which is learningcc.org, and go watch our welcome video. And it essentially set the tone of what you are going to expect when you engaged with the Learning Institute. And that was important to us. Part of the video actually asks our members, right? All City of Corpus Christi employees are already members of the Learning Institute. And it asks them, it challenges them to become a member, even though they're already members, because that emotional buy-in was important for us. It wasn't so much that everyone has access to training. It's you need to be a member of the Learning Institute. You have to raise your hand and say, yes, I want that. And then that way they're invested because they knew that they signed up for it. And that worked beautifully for us. Now, one of the other things that we did was we actually came up with our own branding. We thought it would be important for us to have our own sign, our own branding logo. And we ended up, after rolling out the Learning Institute as a pilot, we started in June and officially launched in October of 2014. But between June and I would say August, September, while we were running the pilot, we weren't really advertising the Learning Institute to the entire organization. It was just more of whoever came to new employee orientation was finding out about it. And then also just hit or miss with just a few different departments we were running pilots with. We realized that having our own brand in terms of our own logo visually was not going to be successful. In fact, a lot of employees thought that it was spam or it was junk mail, even though it said the City of Corpus Christi Learning Institute. And they saw all the familiar things, which were our email address, which was cctexas.com. All those things just, I mean, I guess we took it too far, right? So we made it look so awesome that they couldn't believe that this was part of the city, right? So they were not engaged with it. They felt like it was not part of the organization. So we went back and we decided to use the city seal. And as you can see in most of the rest of the presentation, you've been seeing this as our primary image. But that's one thing I want to point out is the flexibility you have to have when you're building something like this, because we spent a lot of time developing this logo. In fact, the whole point of it was to be a diamond, right? A diamond in the rough, right? Well, how do you get a diamond? You know, you have to put pressure on it, right? So we're gonna put pressure and we're gonna make you into a diamond. You know, that was the whole point. And so there was a lot of thought, a lot of the color scheme and all those things, and we had to let it go, right? Because we realized that it just wasn't communicating the message we wanted, and we were not getting the results we wanted. So something to think about if you're building your corporate university. You may not it may not work to have a completely different brand than what the organization is used to. So now we have our corporate university. We tell our employees that it's their corporate university. It's very important. We always say your corporate university. We want that ownership. We want our employees to make sure that they understand that this is their thing. I'm sure you remember the map that I showed you earlier, the mind map I showed you. This is it cleaned up, okay? So we decided to consolidate training and learning and leadership development together. And as you can see in our training, we offer core training courses, which are essentially our job skills training, our new employee orientation, safety training, all the things that we need for our employees when they come in, policies, procedures, all that gets handled in core training. Technical training is our police, fire academies, and any other trainings that have to do with skills that you need to learn to be able to do your job. The next thing was our supervisor academy, our management academy, and our executive leadership academy. These were going to be brand new academies that were going to be almost like signing up for college, right? So you end up saying, I want a degree in this, right? And they give you a degree plan, and you decide, and then you have to take those courses. And that's how these academies are set up. We have a set of courses you have to take. Our supervisor academy is one classroom course, face-to-face, and then the rest of it is all online. Our management academy is same thing, but it's 3 classroom courses, and then the rest of it is online. It's about 12 courses in each. And our executive leadership academy is actually by invitation only. Our city manager would invite anyone to the executive leadership academy. If you are not in executive leadership, you must have been invited into you must have graduated from the supervisor academy and the management academy to actually be invited into executive leadership. And that is once a month, and it's pretty much like case studies, and it's more hands-on learning, and that is in front of our city manager. And then we also have our tuition reimbursement program. But as you can see, I'm going to go into customer service. You know, we do our city champions program, our superhero search program, and then we have our performance management that we do for the city, including career coaching. We run all the recognition programs, and then our community engagement initiatives. I want to show you this slide, which shows what the city was doing before the Learning Institute came on board. So we were able to level up a lot of the things that the city was doing in terms of employee engagement. There was a lot of things that weren't happening. Like, for example, when you look at our recognition programs, there was no recognition programs. Every department, every division, they just kind of did their own thing. But there was not this one big thing that the city was doing, which surprised me. And so that's why very quickly we were like, this is what we're going to do. And as you look at our map here, this is what sets us apart from thinking about being maybe an HR role, which is training, because a lot of times the learning and organizational development sits under HR, which we do, by the way. We sit under the human resources department, but we believe that our job is beyond human resources. Our job is about impacting the performance of the entire city. We want to be able to help the business decisions when they're making sense, when they're being made, right? So when they're being implemented, when things are coming down the pipeline in terms of everybody needing to know change management, we believe we are the critical piece. And that's why we are our corporate university, because it's not just about training, it's about making an impact throughout the whole organization. So now we're going to get into it, right? So we're going to get into it and learn a little bit about how everything was running. So when I came on board, everything was paper. it was scanning, and all the training was done face to face, and there was job aids, paper job aids. There was binders and binders and binders of documents that people needed to have, and there would be all these reports that everybody was needing to be sent, and there was tons of paper. I mean, literally, I'll never forget walking into the office I now have, and it was literally just filing cabinets. And that was the vision that I was like, wow, this is what we're doing, right? But it was great because it helped me just move forward from there, right? So one thing I wanted to bring up this slide because I think it's important. I had a hard time helping our organization understand why digital learning was important, but it really helped when I gave a presentation talking about how we live in a new world. And this, you can dig deeper into this. This is a presentation about the fourth industrial revolution. As you can see, first we had mechanical, which was based on water and steam power, and then we had electrical power, which was mass production, and as you can see, we move into the third industrial revolution, which is electronics, and now we are all living in what we call the fourth industrial revolution, which is the digital revolution, and this is essentially the fusion of physical, digital, and biological learning, right? So we're not just talking about putting people through the motion and they just do their job and then they go home and they come back and they learn the task and then they do it and they go home. Everything has changed, right? So the impact of this industrial revolution has to be felt in terms of now it's about people. All the mundane tasks that people used to be hired to do have essentially been automated. So how are we going to be able to be successful? And the way I was able to help this too is by showing that by the year 2020, which is 2 years from now, and I had given this presentation about 4 years ago, by the year 2020, 35% of the skills that our employees had were going to be irrelevant. Essentially, they were going to need to scale up and be ready for something that was coming, and now in 2 years we needed to be ready for that. How are we going to be ready for that? How are we going to be able to make sure that not only were our employees going to be ready to do their job today, but 5 years from now, right? We needed to be thinking beyond the jobs today, because if we are truly going to be the benchmark city for the state of Texas, we're going to need to level up. And we're going to need to create an environment where not only do we learn better, but we work better, and then we end up living in a better environment. So this rapid pace of change and job skills and the growing demand for being able to upskill our employees faster really created this great feeling, because it created almost like an urgent need for the Learning Institute, and it was just great. I think that was the buy-in we needed. And so yeah, so if you're looking to get support on why you need to level up your learning and development, I would say this would be a good pitch for you to give in terms of the future of your communities. The other thing we considered was that one size doesn't fit all. I mentioned earlier that our organization is very diverse in terms of jobs, right? So job skills and capabilities, but even more important than that, even the way you approach and view the style of learning, because some people are incredibly logical and linear thinkers, and they can rapidly understand the process just by reading a manual. And then others, like me, we're more the visual learners, and we comprehend information. We comprehend it faster by either watching a video, or we may even take it a step further. And I would just actually prefer to be doing it, to not only be reading and seeing, but I want to be able to put my hands on it, and I want to jump in and do the work and see how it operates and be the one operating it. And so we realized then that the Learning Institute training needed to move beyond just either classroom training or online training. Now what we have is we've moved into what we call experiential training. And so we take our employees through different courses. And one of them, which is actually pretty exciting, it's the most popular. I don't know if your cities may have this, but we have our employees go through a program called escape rooms. And these are kind of fun, and a lot of people do them in the evenings with their families and friends. But we have them here at the city, and they have been so successful in helping teams work well together and understanding the team dynamic. So this experiential training has actually helped us increase our participation in training at the City of Corpus Christi. So as you can imagine, we had the blueprint, And then now we had to build all the different areas of the training. And this is where OpenSesame comes in. In fact, when I came to the City of Corpus Christi, didn't have a learning management system, didn't have anything that actually tracked training. Everything was running off of spreadsheets. And so immediately started researching, different companies. We knew we were going to go out and put out a bid for somebody to come and be our learning partner, and maybe not just one person, multiple organizations to support us. And I can't remember how we stumbled across OpenSesame. Either they sent me a message or I found them, or either way, it doesn't matter because the rest is history. Because as soon as I found OpenSesame, it was amazing. I mean, they completely changed the way I thought about working with a partner. In fact, I was throwing stuff at them thinking they're just another vendor and this is a salesperson, and if I give them this difficult work, they'll just leave me alone, right? And they surprised me. It was amazing. So as you can see, this is a Trello board. If you're not familiar with Trello, Trello is a system that helps you just track the project and the work that you have. And so we had put everything that we needed to build in terms of training on our Trello board. And so we were starting, step by step and starting to figure out how we're going to build these things, how are we going to make it work. And here comes OpenSesame. And I was like, well, let me share them the Trello board and let's see what they map for us, right? And you will not believe it. A week later, I can't remember who it was, but I remember getting a message back, and it literally had our entire Trello board, because Trello is really great. You can share it with other people and then give them permission to be able to also comment on it. It had been shared back with specific trainings that we would be able to implement within OpenSesame. So OpenSesame was showing me that, hey, we've already done the work for you. And they essentially built out for us our Supervisor Academy, our Management Academy, and our Executive Leadership Academy courses. I mean, wow. We hadn't even picked them as a vendor, by the way, and they did that for us. That was truly amazing. And then eventually, after vetting all, we work in government, so everything has to be vetted, inside, outside, and it has to be the lowest price no matter what. And of course, they came out strong in every area. So I was just so happy that we ended up picking OpenSesame, because it has just been better and better and better every year. I mean, we've doubled the number of courses we had when we went into when we signed a contract with OpenSesame. Now we have double the number of courses available. They are constantly being innovative in the way they're delivering training. Now I work with a gentleman called Les. He's amazing. He does checkpoints and makes sure that everything's working. I have to brag on the customer service team of OpenSesame, because they have taught us at the City of Corpus Christi how to provide customer service. In fact, because we deliver the customer service training, I always say, I've even asked OpenSesame, do you have a training on how you guys provide customer service? Because it is amazing. It's very hands-on. It's immediate. I don't know if they sleep, because sometimes we'll send messages late at night and we'll get a response, and it'll be our employees will be taken care of immediately. It's just great. It's really been great working with OpenSesame. So our Executive Leadership Academy is just an example of one of the academies we run. And this one is a classroom training. We teach it face-to-face, and it's usually subject matter experts that come into the room. They could either be employees who are subject matter experts in a particular topic, or it could be any professional trainers or anybody in academia who has knowledge in something that we wanted our executive leadership team to learn. One of the other things that we're pretty proud of through the Learning Institute is we provide every employee of the city $2,000 towards their education. And so this includes whether they're going for their bachelor's degree, associate's degree, a PhD, whether it's even a certification that they need, we provide the reimbursement for them. And we also have partnerships with local and actually University of Phoenix also for scholarships. And so we are able to provide opportunities to our employees. And the way this works is we wouldn't be able to have these agreements with these educational institutions if we didn't exist as the Learning Institute. If we didn't exist under this umbrella of having this really diverse advisory group, which actually is part of the community, everybody in the community is represented on there. And so we're seen as this, we are almost the holder of leadership development for the City of Corpus Christi. And that presents itself opportunities for our employees, which is great. We've also been able to work with multiple other organizations to create sub-organizations. So we have an organization here in Corpus Christi called Women Leading Government. And it's not just city employees, it's anybody who works in our municipal or our regional transportation. We also have our military teams here at the City of Corpus Christi. So anybody who works in government and anybody who doesn't even work in government, who's just interested in joining, can be part of this Women Leading Government. And this is just one of the community engagement opportunities that we've been able to help, I guess, grow here at the City of Corpus Christi. One of the other things that we provide to our employees is career coaching. We give them the opportunity to not only grow their careers, but to proactively come and visit with us so that we are being able to map things out for them. So career coaching is one-on-one support, but more important than that is we send them an assessment. So right in the very beginning of the career coaching opportunity for the employee, they get an email from us, and it's an assessment that they do, and then they get a report that shows what their soft skills are, what their motivations are, and then they're immediately able to discover what their career profile looks like or what's a good fit for them. Sometimes career coaching happens because either an employee feels stuck in the role they're in, or they have been trying to apply for multiple opportunities and just not getting them, or just for one reason or another they just feel like they need a change, right? And so this assessment is helpful in making sure that they see where they fit. But the great thing about this, and we use a company called Talent Today for our assessments. We used to use Strengths Finder, which was a Gallup one, but we switched to Talent Today. Even though we still use both organizations, we switched to use the assessments through Talent Today, because Talent Today actually has the capability to map your entire organization. So the more people that come for career coaching, the more people who do these assessments, the more we're able to build a great profile of what our entire organization looks like, so that we can see who is growing in education and in their careers, but also who has the personalities we need in terms of any upward mobility that's needed in the organization. So the career coaching also comes with a workbook that the employees get. And I wanted to point out our career coaching plan, which after each employee comes for the career coaching opportunity, we put a career coaching plan in their employee file. And this was something that was told to us by our city manager. And it was important because one of the things that we want to do is just create a culture of continuous improvement. Our goal is to make sure that with every day that the employee is here, that they're seeing their job beyond what they came in at, right? So they're trying to be better. And by putting this in every employee's file, when they are maybe up for promotion or maybe another opportunity is coming up for them and they may not know it, this is a great way to be able to document that this employee is moving towards their success. So I already mentioned that we do the recognition programs for the city. So we started off we do the Employee of the Quarter, Employee of the Year, we do service pins, we do a City Champions Awards, and then we provide on-the-spot awards. And I want to touch on that one a little bit. In fact, we have on-the-spot recognition kits that we give to every supervisor at the City of Corpus Christi. And the supervisors, when they get the kits in there, there's what we call a praise pad, and they can immediately just tear out the sheet of a praise pad, write down what that employee did, give that employee their praise right in front of them, like it literally could happen, and then 5 minutes later they have the recognition. And then that employee can turn around and take the ticket from that praise pad, turn it into us at HR, and then they go into a drawing for on-the-spot award. And I thought that was really great for us to be able to show that you don't have to wait to recognize somebody. By empowering our supervisors to have their recognition kits right there on their desks, it comes with a mix of birthday cards, anniversary cards, just all the different things that could happen in an office. And as a supervisor, you may walk in and be like, oh my God, I forgot that was my employee's birthday. It's okay. We got you covered. We got a recognition kit for you. It's got birthday cards in there. In fact, if you're like me and you're proactive, write them ahead of time, right? So in the beginning of the year, write out all the cards, all the anniversaries, and then you're ready to go and you're just waiting to hand them out. So that's one thing that we do. And then we obviously have our education achievement. Any of our employees who go through any education and they either graduate or they get the certification, we recognize them. And then we have our Volunteer of the Year awards. So we recognize our volunteers. In fact, we are very strong members. We are corporate Toastmasters. We have a corporate Toastmasters club at the City of Corpus Christi, and we're very active in it. And we have one DTM right now, actually. His name is Fred Pena, and we're very proud of him. And then my most passionate area of the Learning Institute is our community engagement. In fact, I think in my heart, I am really truly built to think about how can we help our communities become successful. In fact, before I came to the city, I'd started a nonprofit organization called Power Up, and it stands for providing opportunities where everyone rises up. And it's really built on the goal of the digital divide. I truly believe, and data says this too, right? So it's not just my emotions, it's also the logic, right? That the digital divide is what holds communities behind, and not just cities, but also it could be even your family, it could be your neighborhood, it could be anywhere. It holds you back because not everybody has equal resources. And I believe that if you give a person a laptop and internet access, they can take over the world. They could essentially go to school, they can get a job, they can work, they can learn anything. And so that is the digital divide, not having access to technology. And so that's what Power Up does. And so when we started the volunteer award and we have our employees log their volunteer service, it was really important for me to be able to show how many city employees are playing an impact in our community. So wherever and whenever employees choose to give back, we want to find out what organization they supported and how they supported it, because it also shows that they are helping our community become successful. So they're not just in it for the paycheck, they're also volunteering their time to support the community. And again, we partner with multiple organizations, and one of the organizations we partner with is Workforce Solutions. During the summer, we bring in our educators so that they can learn about all the different careers within the city. And it's usually just like a half a week, and we take them through to all the different departments. They get a tour of all the different areas of the city. And the goal here is to be able to help our young people, our students. We want our teachers to learn what it takes to run a city, so that when they're creating their curriculum, they're keeping that in mind, so that they're leveling up their students, right? So by the time we're getting to hire them, they're ready to go. We also host a lot of community events to be able to put the city in a positive light. As you can imagine, working in local government, sometimes it feels like you're just kind of cleaning up every time, right? And so we host an event called City Hall in the Mall, and our communications department does an amazing job with this, and we're going to be having it in June this year. And the partnership here is to make sure that not only do our citizens know that we are helping create a better environment for them, but we are accessible. So by having City Hall literally in the mall, so we're in the mall and we set up tables all over the mall like as though we're doing business. And so it's really great. It's really a fun event, and our citizens really like it. And we get a lot of things done there. You get a lot of people going, I didn't know that I could sign up for internships, or questions about how to use the fire extinguishers or the light bulbs, showing how to save on energy. There's just so many different things that our departments are able to show citizens, and it's just great goodwill, and it's a great community engagement opportunity. And then also opportunity to meet the mayor and members of our city council. So implementing our programs, as you saw, we have many programs. We didn't implement them all at once. Some of them we started off right away because we knew there were going to be foundational courses, but I'll tell you the steps that I believe are successful. Any new program we're implementing or anything we're refining, these are the steps we take. The first thing we do is we do research, and we find out who's doing it, how are they doing it, and how can we do it better, right? So again, being the benchmark city in the state of Texas, we're trying to figure out who is doing what we want to do and how can we do it better. So we do that research, and then we start designing it so that it's a fit for our community. Then we try to see how it fits by modeling it, right? So this means that me and my team, we actually start to implement it either with just us internally, or maybe because we're in the whole of HR, it's really, I always say HR is like our little guinea pigs. We always use our HR department to test things out. And then we run pilot programs. If for the programs we run, sometimes they require finances, and so we can't show up to city council with something that we haven't tested yet. And so the great thing about working with a company like OpenSesame was they understood this, and OpenSesame was able to help us run a pilot program. They gave us 100 licenses, and we were able to start implementing OpenSesame right away. Now, with these 100 licenses, they give us the opportunity to be able to switch in and switch out employees as they needed the training. And this was so helpful in the decision to actually move forward with the big contract with OpenSesame. But running pilot programs is a really quick, easy way to be able to see whether it's going to work or not. There have been some pilot programs we've run and then realized later, well, that didn't really work out, so let's scratch that. And then there's been pilots we've run and gone, wow, this is amazing, let's level it up, right? So running pilots is really great, it's really important. But again, for us in local government, that's kind of what you have to do so that you can show value when you're going to go and try to get the big win. And then setting a target. You have to set a target. How do you know you're going to be successful if you don't set a target? So setting those targets is also very important. So some of the risks and obstacles that we faced are that we didn't have any visibility. In fact, nobody knew the Learning Institute. Nobody knew what it was. Now it's a whole different story. Everybody knows the Learning Institute. But when we first started, nobody knew what we were. In fact, we were seen as a disruption. I even remember getting messages from executive leadership going, what are you doing? You know, our employees don't have time for this. You know, we don't, you know, sort of like a, you know, you're causing a rift in the organization. Who are you? Go away, you know? And so having great support is good, but sometimes that needing to increase visibility is also very important. So we very quickly started to print posters and send out emails every now and then, and so we just wanted people to realize that we're not going anywhere. The Learning Institute is here to stay. Another thing we realized was some of the processes of the city were not helpful towards us when either we were trying to work with a vendor or we were trying to implement within a department. So knowing that a lot of the documents and a lot of the paperwork required signature by department director, and the department director probably has a whole bunch of documents on their desk to sign, you know, and so that was creating a bottleneck in our progress. And so now we've identified what we call our champions in different departments, and that's who we go to. And essentially some of our champions have actually been given permission to be able to create customized opportunities for their teams. So I'll give an example, like the utilities department. They now have a monthly meeting for all their utility managers, and they have their administrator who has free reign to help develop the content that they get to learn about. And so we work with that person directly. We don't have to go to the director. Optimization was also something that we were really worried about. I think when you start any program, you're always going to change. It's always going to change. But in local government, it's almost like if you wrote it down, then it's law. And so we would write something down and say, this is what we want. And then we'd want to shift a little bit. And it would be like an act of God, it almost seemed, just to make those few changes, few shifts here and there. So that's something to consider, is when you're putting anything down on paper or when you're making any decision, that sometimes it can just be difficult when you want to move in a different direction. So optimization for us just wasn't working as swiftly as we wanted. Over time, you learn, and so we've learned how to make things work. And then the definition of roles. So we came in as the Learning Institute, and it's not that we didn't have training at the city. It's not that we didn't have recognition programs. It just meant that it wasn't happening across the board for all employees. And so when we came on board, I think it did seem like we were stepping on toes, right? So some people are like, no, we already do that internally. Like, we don't need you. We had departments that had contracts with the same vendor. So within the city, different departments had different contracts with the same vendor for training, right? And so we came in and we were cleaning house. We're like, nope, those all should go through the Learning Institute. Not only was it helpful in terms of making sure that everybody's getting the same value for the money that we're spending, but also in understanding that we all want the same thing. If somebody's having a leadership training on one side of the city and somebody else is having the same exact leadership training, well, why can't they do it together? And so we were able to work very closely with multiple people within the organization to be able to define the roles of where we fit in and how we can be a great support system for them. Our implementation obstacles. As a city organization, we have many cross-functional teams. And so what this means is that there's just so many teams that don't just do one thing. It may seem like they're the utilities and they just do like water or gas, but that's not all they do. They work with multiple other organizations. Like, for example, our development services team, they work with all the utilities. And so it's not just, you're not just dealing with employees who have one function. They're stretched across different functions. And so that's one of our implementation obstacles, was having the understanding that we're not just going to be training for that one job. It's about understanding, how does that person stretch out, like an octopus, right? How do they stretch out and they're able to use the skills that they're learning in multiple areas? And also the delivery of training was an obstacle for us. It continues to be, and I don't know if you agree with me, but part of the goal of providing training is to skill up and to motivate and to create more innovation and, to open up the mind, right? And what we're challenged with is time. So we found that we have employees who emotionally they're very interested in coming to training, but they're not coming, right? So we don't have the numbers that we would want. And so that's definitely a challenge for us in implementation, because we're very excited about the work we do, and we may be excited about trainings, and employees may say they're excited, but if they're not showing up, then that's painting a different picture. Having buy-in has also been an obstacle. So on the other end of the spectrum, we have employees that are excited and their supervisors are not excited. What does that mean, right? It means that their supervisors are probably saying, oh, are you sure you want to go to that? Don't you have a lot of work to do? And so that's not a good thing, right? So making sure from the very beginning that we have the buy-in from our executive leadership team and our managers and our supervisors, so that way when our employees want to engage with the work that we're doing at the Institute, that there's no obstacles. And then also celebrating successes. I think one of the things that we realized when we started doing the educational achievement was that we had a huge increase in tuition reimbursement applications. And so making sure that everything you're doing, you're celebrating successes. So when we do our supervisor academy, we have a graduation ceremony for that. So there's just many different areas of work that you could be doing. Like when we do our City Champions program, we put out a report that shows which departments are at 100% of participation in our City Champions, which is a customer service training program we have here at the city. Getting constant feedback was also tough. Like I said in the beginning, came in, did surveys, focus groups, which was great. Right in the beginning, I call it the honeymoon stage, right? Everyone's excited and we're all in it and we're all excited about the Learning Institute. And then over time, it's sort of like nobody wants to fill out a survey. When you wanna ask questions, it's sort of like, yeah, whatever. But it's so important to get that constant feedback. And so for our implementation purposes, it was important for us to either work with whoever we were working with on a pilot program. It was important for them to be completely engaged. And then making sure that you have good social skills. I wanted to point this out because we're working with many different personalities, and sometimes it's not even about a person's personality. It may even be just whether we're talking about an administrative consideration or political consideration, right? So some of the decisions in government are not just cut and dry, like, yeah, well, that makes financial sense. No, because it depends on who's in office, right? Who's sitting in that seat. And so making sure that having those good social relationships is very important for us. And so that was an obstacle, just making sure that we are in tune with it. And then one of the things that was an obstacle was checklists, right? So I love checklists. I love putting things on paper. We create a blueprint, and now let's break out this project into tasks. And if you know Trello, if you use Trello, then you know that if I love Trello, then I love checklists, right? Because you go in there and you just break everything down, and then you assign it to somebody, or you're working on it, and you're able to visibly see your project come to life. And so one of the obstacles was being able to very swiftly change things around, very swiftly work on them, and then also being able to delegate away from your department, right? So even though our team was responsible for the tasks that needed to be accomplished, we needed to be able to leverage other people in other departments in order to move quickly. Okay, so now we're going to talk about our vendors. So I'm going to talk about each one separately, but our website is but later I'll show you how they all fit together. So our website is built on WordPress. It's built on a WordPress platform, which is very helpful for us. And I'm very glad we did this because we had been talking to our communications department, and they wanted us to build our Learning Institute website on the city's platform, which uses a completely different CMS. I'm not sure what they use, but it was very important for us to be able to very quickly and easily make updates and changes to our website. So we're built on WordPress. We use Trello for our operations, tracking the work we do. We also use Adobe Sign. We also run the internship programs for the city. And so a lot of times with interns, they're either students or they can't come in to sign documents. And it's just super easy for us when we need documents signed for any reason, volunteers even. We use Adobe Sign integrated so that we're able to get those signatures we need electronically. For our branding purposes, we are not graphic designers, and it would be quite difficult to have graphic designers, but we discovered tools like Venngage. Venngage is an online-based program that helps you develop great-looking flyers and banners and just really great looking stuff with like literally just minimal effort on your part. Just choose a template, add your text, looks great, or add some pictures. And then of course we have an amazing team member, Megan Isasi, who works for us. She has learned Venngage so well that she's able to just make it even better. We use MailChimp for sending out our communication. So it's really easy for us because we can create campaigns in there, and we're able to essentially market. We're able to market well and automate a lot of the work we do. Using WordPress, we also implemented what we call LearnPress. So this is through our website. It's a plugin, and we are able to deliver training through there as well. So if we have short videos that we want people to watch, and we also want to track their participation of watching the video, we do it through LearnPress. We use Facebook heavily. We use Facebook Live a lot. Now, we do have a policy at the city where city employees don't have access to Facebook, right? So they don't have access to Facebook on their computers, but they all have it on their phones. And so they all engage with it. They're all engaging with our Facebook Live videos. So we're going there. We are in the process right now of implementing our social media policy for the city, which will create some changes to that policy I mentioned earlier, where we're not allowed to have it, because the world has moved forward and social media is part of our lives. And so we use Facebook heavily when we're trying to promote the work we do. We also use Wufoo, which is actually now owned by SurveyMonkey. So if you use SurveyMonkey, then they own Wufoo. And when we were using Wufoo, they were not owned by SurveyMonkey. But Wufoo, what it does is, I know how to code websites and forms, but if you don't, then just get a company like Wufoo to do it for you. And it's really easy. It's very cheap, actually. I think we pay about $250 a year, and we get access to create unlimited forms and then just embed them on our website. And then what that does is, anytime we need to collect information or people need to register for something or whatever it is, it's very quick, easy, and we use Wufoo for all of that, for all our data management. Now, even though we have some front-facing forms, we have our own internal forms we use in order to manage our own workflow. So automated emails get sent out based on sending a form out. So if I fill out a form and I hit submit, it triggers an email to somebody which actually has more information from them. So it's really great. It's really a great tool for you when you're trying to automate the work you do. The other tool we use is Google Drive. And so we use it when we're trying to collaborate on documents or spreadsheets. And I wanted to point out Automate.io, which is a great tool. And I put them together. I put Wufoo, Google Drive, and Automate.io together because you can use Automate.io to have Wufoo talk to Google. And so every time you have a form that gets sent out, there's an action that's made, a form that's sent, but also it updates a spreadsheet. And so now your data's already done. And even if you have the formulas in there, it calculates it already for you. And so these are just all the different ways that you may be able to use tools that are free out there, right? Except for Wufoo, it's free, I think, up to 10 forms, if I'm not mistaken. And then after that, you have to pay. And but I mean, minimal, right? $250 a year, really? Yeah. So that you can automate the work you do. It's awesome. I love it. Our learning vendors. Okay, so we work with many different learning partners. We have Del Mar College, which is our strongest partner, actually. They actually have a corporate services team within the college itself. And they have I call it a menu. They have a menu of trainers to pick from. And just depending on what you're looking for, you'll find somebody who's the perfect fit. In fact, right now we're working with them. Coming up at the end of May, we're going to be working with our police department, the criminal investigation division, and our MetroCom, our 911 dispatchers. They're all going to be going through a team building and conflict resolution training. And we're working with Del Mar on that because we have this amazing trainer, and her name's Akita, and that is her expertise is conflict resolution. And so she's going to be giving them a 4-hour training on that. So that's going to be amazing. Another vendor we work with is Franklin Covey. We are a Covey organization. We use the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People as a foundational training that we believe every employee needs to go through. And the reason why is because we also heavily use what we call the time matrix. Why did I forget? So we use the time matrix from the Franklin Covey, and that's very helpful within the organization because then we're all using the same terms when we're talking about how the work needs to be completed. Whether it's Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4, everybody's speaking the same language. We use John Maxwell training. They have what we call the leadership game. So we do that training through them, plus other trainings. Of course, OpenSesame, they're amazing online training, over 6,000 training courses available in many different categories. We use Talent Today. We are Gallup certified strengths coaches. We use a company called Aptera. Sometimes we just cannot find that subject expert, and they have access to different vendors all over the United States. Actually, I think they're an international company. And then we also use a company out of San Antonio called Focus Consulting Services. So one of the big ideas we had was to build a program that brought the community together. And so we had our Employee of the Year events where I guess we crown our city champions is what we call it. But we created what we call the City Champions program. And this is actually an award-winning program. We've won multiple awards for this program. And what it is, it's a mix of bringing in our employees, understanding what their role is, the impact they're going to have, and the meaning of their work, and then seeing how they fit in terms of creating a city of champions. So we celebrate Customer Service Week. We have what we call our Superhero Search program, and what this is we are giving our citizens the opportunity to tell us how the city is working for them. And so our citizens are seen as detectives, and they come in and they're almost like a mystery shopper program, and it's just local to our community, and it's kind of cool. So we're very excited about implementing that. And then, of course, our City Champions program is something that we see as something that we are just very excited about launching for our community, because we believe that everybody who works for the city is a city champion. Part of the growth of our City Champions program is to make sure that we are not only thinking about today, but also the future. So part of our City Champions program is creating a curriculum that would start at the kindergarten level and teach kids how to become city champions. How can they grow to learn and love and work in Corpus Christi? Some of our future considerations are monetizing the work we do. So we already monetize, which means that we don't only provide service to our employees, we also work with multiple organizations. So we work with Walgreens, we work with our local CCAD, which is our military services here in Corpus Christi. But the goal for us now is to do more pull versus push marketing. We don't want to tell people so much as we want to just create amazingness and have them come to us. We're starting to partner more and having shared community resources here at the city, and then leveraging more of our internal subject matter experts. That's going to be important for us. And in closing, I just want to put out this quote, which I absolutely love. It doesn't matter how many resources you have. If you don't know how to use them, it will never be enough. Essentially, you may have the best organization with the most money and you have all the tools you need, but if you're not putting them together in the right order, or if you're not working it well, then it will never be enough. So this is my team. I'm sure that a lot of times I give this presentation and it seems that we have multiple people working for us, but we are 3 of us. And we like to say that we are the 3 musketeers, but more important than that, we make sure that the work we're doing is stretching across different areas. So we're not just doing the work internally, we're making sure that we're using all the tools and resources available in the community, so that we're not just doing the work, we're being able to push and pull as we need, and other people are doing the work. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this presentation from the Learning Institute. Again, we are here in Corpus Christi, Texas, and we are a corporate university, but more important than that, our goal is to grow our city's leaders. We want to make sure that we're increasing the value of everybody here at the City of Corpus Christi, and we want to give people the freedom to take classes online or to take classroom courses, but also to incorporate all the skills that they're learning at the Learning Institute into their own personal lives. And so, Samantha?
Yeah, Lisa, thank you so much. Really enjoyed that presentation. I, took a couple of notes. I just really loved what you said, that, we are beyond an HR resource. We, can and do have such a larger impact. And that's something that I definitely wrote down and will be using in the future. And we are actually completely out of time. But if you guys have a few moments, please fill out the quick poll question that has been presented. And as a reminder, we will be sending out a recording of this webinar and the slides via email tomorrow. So please forward that on to anyone that you think would benefit from the presentation today. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope you are all leaving with a few more tools in your L&D toolkit than you did before this. And we hope to see you at a future webinar with OpenSesame soon. Thanks, everybody.